It's said that 1 in 5 Americans will one day face the long shadow of dementia, but you've seen it yourself, haven't you? You know people of the same age, even from the same town, who walk 2 entirely different paths as the years go by. What is it that marks this fork in the road? On one path, a person reaches 80 or 90, and the world begins to shrink. They become unable to live alone, their memories fading like old photographs left in the sun. On the other path, someone well into their 90s still walks with a confident stride, dresses with care, cooks their own meals, and engages in lively conversation. Their minds as sharp and clear as a crisp autumn morning. They seem younger, more vibrant. What is the profound difference between these two journeys? As a physician who has dedicated his life to the complexities of the human brain, I can tell you with absolute certainty that there are common behaviors, shared habits, that pave the road toward cognitive decline, and it's possible that you, listening to this right now, are unconsciously taking steps down that very road. Today, I want to share with you the secrets to dementia prevention that you won't often hear in a rushed, 15-minute doctor's appointment. I invite you to listen closely. This may be some of the most important information you ever receive. My name is Dr. Alistair Finch. For more than 2 decades, I have sat across from patients and their families, navigating the labyrinth of dementia. I've held the hands of spouses who no longer recognize the love of their life, and I've looked into the frightened eyes of those who feel their own identity slipping away. Through these thousands of consultations, through years of research and observation, a clear pattern has emerged. Today, I will share everything I have learned. We will explore tangible, concrete methods to protect your brain from the ravages of aging, to keep your mind a vibrant, thriving place for all the years to come. This is knowledge worth sharing. So please, think of your family, your friends, and listen with them in mind. Let me begin with a story. Just the other day, a gentleman named Arthur Gable, 71 years old, came to my clinic. Arthur was a retired history teacher, a man whose life had been a tapestry of dates, names, and grand narratives. He sat in the worn leather chair opposite my desk, his hands clasped tightly in his lap, his shoulders slumped with a weight that was more than just physical. "Doctor," he began, his voice a low murmur, "I'm worried. My memory, it's not what it was. Just last week, I went to the grocery store and stood in the middle of an aisle, completely blank. I couldn't for the life of me remember what I needed. And the other day, I was talking to a dear old friend, someone I've known for 40 years, and his name just vanished. Is this it? Is this the beginning of dementia? Does that sound familiar? Perhaps you've spent 10 frantic minutes searching for keys that were in your hand the whole time. Or maybe you've struggled to recall what you ate for dinner just last night. The truth is, these moments of forgetfulness are a common anxiety for many of us. But I want to offer you a word of reassurance. Simple memory lapses are not the same as dementia. And more importantly, dementia is not an inevitable destiny. It is something we can actively fight against. As I spoke with Arthur, delving deeper into his daily routines and lifestyle, a familiar picture began to form. He exhibited several of the common threads I'd seen time and time again in patients on the path to cognitive decline. These were the 5 habits I want to discuss with you today. By addressing these habits, by making conscious changes to his daily life, Arthur returned to my office 3 months later, a changed man. His recall was sharper, his confidence had returned, and the cloud of anxiety that had followed him into my office was gone. He was laughing again. So, what are these 5 dangerous habits that hold such power over the future of our minds? The first, and perhaps the most critical habit, is a failure to walk. When I give lectures on brain health, I'm often asked, "Doctor, who is most likely to develop dementia?" I never hesitate. My answer is always the same: the person who does not walk. Let me be unequivocally clear. If you have the physical ability to walk, but you choose not to, you are putting your brain in a state of extreme peril. You might think, that's it. Something so simple can't be that significant. Can it? But the scientific evidence is overwhelming and crystal clear. Look at the data from numerous studies. A comprehensive analysis shows that walking around 10 0.000 steps a day can cut your risk of dementia by as much as 50%. A landmark study from Boston University followed individuals over 2 decades. They found that those with lower physical fitness levels in midlife had brains that had physically shrunk more by the time they were older, aging at an accelerated rate compared to their more active peers. The inverse is starkly true. The closer your daily step count is to 0, the higher your risk of dementia climbs. Now, many people believe that brain games, puzzles, and crosswords are the best way to keep the mind sharp. Shouldn't I be doing Sudoku instead of strolling? They ask. While mental exercises are certainly valuable, I want you to remember this one crucial fact. The best exercise for your brain is exercising your body. The moments when your brain is most activated, most engaged, and most alive are when you are in motion. And there's more good news. Our bodies produce a remarkable protein called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF. You can think of it as a kind of fertilizer for the brain. It helps grow new neurons, strengthens existing connections, and protects the brain from injury and decay. And how do we boost the production of this miraculous substance? You guessed it. Consistent physical activity, like walking or swimming. When BDNF levels increase, we see tangible improvements in memory, better emotional regulation, and faster cognitive processing. One incredible study showed that after just 1 year of regular walking, the hippocampus, the brain's memory center, had actually increased in volume. The mechanism is beautifully simple. Walking is a rhythmic, full-body activity that invigorates your cardiovascular system. Your heart pumps more efficiently, improving blood flow throughout your entire body. This enhanced circulation delivers a rich supply of oxygen and essential nutrients directly to your brain, nourishing it in the best way possible. So, how much should you walk? For a starting point, aim for 4,000 to 6,000 steps a day. It costs nothing. It requires no special equipment, and the benefits extend far beyond brain health, improving your heart, your mood, and your overall well-being. It is the single most powerful first step you can take. The second dangerous habit is prolonged sitting. This is the close cousin of not walking, but it poses its own unique set of risks. Consider a lifestyle where you spend most of your day at home, only standing to go to the bathroom or the kitchen. Or think of the millions of people in office jobs, tethered to a desk for 8 hours a day. These individuals, the chronically seated, are at a significantly elevated risk for dementia. Why is sitting for long periods so hazardous? The key word is cerebrovascular health. The health of your brain's blood vessels. A fascinating piece of medical history illustrates this perfectly. The London bus study. In the 1,950 seconds, long before the fitness craze, researchers in London noticed a peculiar trend. They had a simple question. Working on the same iconic red double-decker buses, why did the drivers seem to have far more heart attacks than the conductors? To find out, they launched a large-scale investigation. They divided the bus employees into 2 groups. The first was the drivers, who were almost entirely sedentary, sitting for hours on end. The second group was the conductors, who were constantly in motion, climbing up and down the stairs of the bus, collecting fares, and interacting with passengers. After tracking these 2 groups for many years, the results were astonishing. The constantly moving conductors had a significantly lower incidence of heart attacks than the sedentary drivers. Even when they did have a cardiac event, it was more likely to be mild. This study was one of the first to prove just how crucial small, consistent movements throughout the day are for our health. And what's true for the heart is just as true for the brain. Your brain is crisscrossed by a delicate network of thousands of miles of blood vessels. Long periods of sitting contribute to atherosclerosis, the hardening and narrowing of these arteries. When these vessels become stiff and constricted, they can't deliver enough blood to the brain. This starves your brain cells of the oxygen and nutrients they need to survive, leading directly to brain aging and cognitive decline. When you sit for too long, the large muscles in your legs, especially your calf muscles, often called the second heart, are completely inactive. This causes blood to pool in your lower extremities, leading to sluggish circulation throughout your entire body. Several international studies have confirmed the danger, with one showing that sitting for more than 10 hours a day is associated with a higher risk of dementia. Now, 10 hours might sound like a lot, but if you consider time spent at a desk, commuting in a car, eating meals, and relaxing in front of the television in the evening, you'll find that many Americans easily surpass this threshold. In fact, we live in one of the most sedentary societies in human history. So, what can you do? The solution isn't to run a marathon every day, it's to break the cycle of sitting. First, implement the 30-minute rule. Set a timer on your phone or watch, and make it a non-negotiable rule to stand up at least once every 30 minutes. Use that moment to stimulate the muscles in your legs. Second, when you stand up, don't just stand there. Do a few light stretches. March in place for a minute, or walk to the kitchen for a glass of water. Third, integrate movement into your daily routines. Make it a habit to stand up and pace when you're talking on the phone. During commercial breaks on TV, get up and do some leg lifts. While brushing your teeth, do some calf raises. By weaving these small acts of standing and moving into the fabric of your day, you can counteract the immense harm of a sedentary life. The third dangerous habit is insufficient sleep. Let me ask you a personal question. How many hours do you sleep each night? And what about the quality of that sleep? Do you find yourself waking up frequently? The relationship between sleep and the brain is profoundly important and, frankly, a little frightening. Let's start with an unsettling truth. The cognitive debt you accumulate from a lack of sleep cannot simply be repaid later. We now know that a key player in the development of Alzheimer's disease is a toxic protein called amyloid beta. This is a natural byproduct of your brain's daily activity, a kind of metabolic waste. Fortunately, your brain has a remarkable, built-in sanitation system. While you sleep, cerebrospinal fluid flows through your brain, acting like a power washer, flushing out this amyloid beta and other toxins that have accumulated during the day. This cleaning process is most effective during deep-jax.com, uninterrupted sleep. When your sleep is consistently stable, both in quality and quantity, this system works efficiently, leaving your brain clean and refreshed. However, when sleep is fragmented or too short, this clearance process is impaired. The amyloid beta and other cellular debris are left behind, building up in the brain day after day, year after year. This accumulated brain garbage is what we call sleep debt. And here is the critical point. You can't just catch up on the weekend and expect to wash away weeks or months of buildup. The damage, to some extent, is cumulative. A study from the National University of Singapore found that for every hour of sleep lost per night, the brain's ventricles, the fluid-filled spaces, expanded at a faster rate year after year, a sign of brain atrophy, which was directly correlated with a decline in cognitive function. So, how much sleep is the right amount? Based on a wealth of research, the sweet spot appears to be around 7 hours per night. A major study conducted in Japan followed a large population and found that sleeping less than 5 hours or more than 10 hours were both associated with an increased risk of dementia. A similar European study confirmed that sleeping 9 hours or more also elevated the risk. So, while too little sleep is clearly harmful, it seems that consistently long sleep can also be a red flag, sometimes indicating underlying health issues or poor sleep quality. Taking all the data together, 7 hours emerges as the recommended target for most adults. But it's not just about the number of hours you spend in bed. Sleep quality is paramount. You can lie in bed for 8 hours, but if that time is spent in a light, fragmented, restless state, your brain is not getting the deep, restorative rest it needs. For older adults, a common culprit is nocturia, or the need to wake up frequently to urinate. Each time your sleep is interrupted, the brain's deep cleaning cycle is disrupted. What about napping? This is a question I get all the time. Here, the research is also quite interesting. Studies have shown that a nap of 60 minutes or less can actually lower the risk of Alzheimer's disease. However, naps longer than 60 minutes were associated with a higher risk. The takeaway is that short power naps can be beneficial, but long naps, especially those that disrupt your nighttime sleep rhythm, should be avoided. The fourth dangerous habit is a monotonous diet. What kind of food choices put a person at higher risk for dementia? The answer is simple: a diet that lacks variety. When it comes to eating for brain health, one of the most important principles is diversity. A compelling Japanese study illustrated this perfectly. Researchers compared two groups of older adults. The first group had very low dietary diversity. They ate the same few things day in and day out. The second group had high dietary diversity, consuming a wide variety of foods. The results were astounding. The group with the more diverse diet was 44% less likely to experience cognitive decline. Think about it in the context of nutritional supplements. It seems logical that taking a capsule filled with a concentrated good ingredient would be beneficial, but in reality, study after study has shown that for most people, supplements like vitamin E, DAD, or ginkgo biloba have little to no effect on preventing dementia. In almost every case, you are far better off getting your nutrients from whole foods. Why? Because a whole food, like a blueberry or a piece of salmon, is not just a single ingredient. It's a complex, synergistic package of vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, fibers, and countless other micronutrients that all work together. Our bodies have evolved to process nutrients in this complex form. By eating a wide variety of foods, you ensure that you are getting this full, intricate spectrum of nutrition that your brain craves. So, how can you achieve this in a practical way? One of the best frameworks we have comes from modern nutritional science: the MIND diet. The MIND diet is a hybrid of two other famously healthy eating patterns: the Mediterranean diet and the DASH diet, dietary approaches to stop hypertension. It was specifically designed to promote brain health. I won't overwhelm you with details, but let me give you the highlights. The core principles you can start using today. First, focus on whole grains. This doesn't mean you have to give up bread, but switch to whole wheat instead of white rice. Try brown rice, quinoa, or farro. Even just mixing some of these grains in with your white rice is a great start. Second, make fish the star of your plate, especially fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, and sardines. These are packed with omega-3 fatty acids, which are critical building blocks for your brain cells and have been shown to have powerful anti-inflammatory effects that protect against dementia. Third, embrace healthy fats, particularly from sources like olive oil and nuts. The fundamental idea here is to prioritize plant-based fats over animal-based fats. A handful of walnuts, almonds, or pecans makes an excellent snack. Use extra virgin olive oil for your salad dressings and for cooking. The research on the MIND diet is remarkable. One major study scored participants based on how closely they followed its principles. It found that people with the highest MIND diet scores 8, 5 or above had a 53% lower risk of developing Alzheimer's disease than those with the lowest scores. Even those who followed the diet only moderately well saw a significant risk reduction of about 35%. I encourage you to bring these principles into your kitchen. Think less about restrictive dieting and more about joyfully adding in the foods your brain loves: leafy greens, colorful vegetables, berries, beans, and nuts. And now, for our fifth and final dangerous habit: dulled senses. Your brain is not an isolated organ floating in your skull. It is your command center, constantly processing a torrent of information from the outside world through your 5 senses: sight, smell, hearing, taste, and touch. When the input from these senses diminishes, your brain becomes starved of stimulation, like a sword left to rust in its scabbard. An understimulated brain will begin to lose its function. Among the 5 senses, 2 have been repeatedly and strongly linked in scientific literature to the risk of dementia: the sense of smell and the sense of hearing. Let's start with smell, or olfaction. An American study followed nearly 3 older adults. They were first given a simple smell test, identifying common scents like roses, lemon, and peppermint. The researchers then tracked these individuals for 5 years. The results were startling. Those who performed poorly on the initial smell test were more than twice as likely to have developed dementia 5 years later, compared to those with a keen sense of smell. But why would a problem with the nose be connected to a disease of the brain? The answer lies deep within the brain's architecture. The initial stages of Alzheimer's disease, where those toxic amyloid proteins first begin to accumulate, often start in a region called the entorhinal cortex. This area is a close neighbor and critical partner to the hippocampus, the memory center. And what else is the entorhinal cortex responsible for? It is the brain's primary receiving station for information coming from your nose. It is the first stop for smells on their journey into your consciousness. Because the place where Alzheimer's begins and the place that processes smell are right next to each other, a decline in your ability to detect odors is often one of the very earliest, most subtle signs that something is wrong. So if you find that you can no longer smell your morning coffee or the scent of freshly cut grass, don't just dismiss it as a sinus issue or a sign of aging. Treat it as a potential warning light for your brain's health. Next, let's talk about hearing. To keep your brain sharp and active well into your 80 seconds and 90 seconds, your ears are incredibly important. And there is one surprisingly simple action that is often overlooked: cleaning your ears. I'm not talking about sticking cotton swabs deep into your ear canal, which can be dangerous. I'm referring to addressing significant earwax blockage. Look at this data. Among people over 80, a staggering 13%, that's more than 1 in 10, have so much impacted earwax that their eardrum is completely obscured. Naturally, this significantly impairs their hearing. A Japanese study found that this level of blockage reduces hearing by an average of 7 decibels, a clearly noticeable difference that can interfere with daily life. But here is the hopeful part. This is a completely fixable problem. A study in an American nursing home found that simply removing impacted earwax from residents not only improved their hearing, but also led to measurable improvements in their cognitive function. You might think, it's just earwax. But it is not uncommon for this simple issue to be a direct cause of cognitive decline. I recall a case from my own practice. An elderly man in his late 80 seconds, let's call him Mr. Henderson, was admitted to the hospital. He was using hearing aids, yet he was almost completely non-communicative with the doctors and nurses. He seemed lost in his own world. A curious young resident decided to take a look in his ears with a light and was shocked to find a massive amount of impacted earwax in both ears. After a specialist carefully removed it, the transformation was like night and day. Within hours, Mr. Henderson was engaging in conversation. His appetite returned. He was even telling jokes to the staff. His family was overjoyed. It wasn't dementia that had silenced him. It was a wall of wax. So please, take care of your own ears. And if you have an older family member who is struggling, make sure this simple check is performed. Beyond earwax, we must also address underlying hearing loss, or presbycusis, as our ability to hear fades. Key areas of the brain, including the hippocampus and the temporal lobe, begin to shrink from lack of stimulation. Furthermore, poor hearing is a major contributor to social isolation, which is itself a well-known risk factor for dementia. When you can't follow a conversation, you begin to withdraw. You avoid family gatherings and social events. Your world shrinks, and so does your brain. Modern medicine can't yet reverse age-related hearing loss, which makes it all the more crucial to use the tools we have. Yet, in the United States, only about 30% of adults aged 70 and older who could benefit from hearing aids have ever used them. If you feel that your hearing is beginning to fade, please, do not wait. Schedule a consultation with an audiologist. Getting fitted for hearing aids at an early stage is one of the most powerful things you can do to protect your cognitive future. So, having discussed these 5 patterns of life that can lead toward dementia, let's turn this knowledge into a concrete plan of action. It's not enough to know the risks. We must understand how to build a life that actively resists them. First, for the person who doesn't walk, if you've heard my words today and recognized yourself, I understand it can feel daunting. But you don't need to start by climbing a mountain. Start by adding just 10 minutes of walking to your day. That's it. A short stroll around the block after dinner, taking the stairs instead of the elevator for one floor. Every single step you take improves blood flow to your brain and activates it in a way that sitting on the couch never can. Think of each step as an investment in your future mind. Once that becomes a habit, you can gradually work your way up toward that goal of 8,000 to 10,000 steps, always being mindful of any pain in your knees or hips. Next, reducing your sitting time. On top of your walking habit, consciously break up long periods of being sedentary. Remember the 30-minute rule. Stand up, march in place, stretch, do calf raises while you brush your teeth. Each small action sends a ripple of positive effects through your circulatory system, one small change at a time. You can transform your environment from a static one to a dynamic one. Then, improving your sleep. Aim for that 7-hour target. If you find yourself waking up too early, to try adjusting your bedtime accordingly. More importantly, cultivate a healthy sleep environment. Keep your bedroom dark, quiet, and cool. Avoid screens for at least an hour before bed. If frequent nighttime urination is a problem, speak to your doctor about potential solutions, as this is a serious disruption to your brain's restorative processes. For your diet, fight against monotony. Embrace the power of diversity. Keep the principles of the mind diet at the forefront of your mind. Instead of sugary juices, sodas, and pastries, choose foods that your brain will thank you for: fish, vegetables, beans, nuts, and berries. To make it even more concrete, let me suggest a couple of simple, brain-healthy meals anyone can make. First, a beautiful baked salmon with roasted asparagus and a side of quinoa. This single meal provides high-quality protein, omega-3 fatty acids from the salmon, fiber and vitamins from the asparagus, and a nutrient-dense whole grain from the quinoa, all drizzled with heart-healthy olive oil. Another wonderful option is a hearty lentil and vegetable soup. Combine lentils, carrots, celery, onions, and spinach in a flavorful broth. It's packed with fiber, protein, and a rainbow of vitamins. It's delicious, easy to make in a big batch, and a perfect example of eating with diversity in mind. Finally, cherish and protect your senses, especially your sense of smell and hearing. If you notice a change in your ability to smell, mention it to your doctor. If you suspect your hearing has declined, get it checked. Don't let pride or denial stand in the way. Regularly check for earwax buildup. Using hearing aids is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of wisdom and a commitment to keeping your brain engaged with the world. To truly put these changes into practice, I have one final piece of advice. Take out a blank piece of paper. On it, write a list of things you want to do, new things you want to try. A commitment to lifelong learning and new experiences is one of the greatest defenses against cognitive decline. Perhaps you want to learn a new language, take a painting class, or join a local hiking club. This feeling of purpose, of looking forward to the future with excitement, is what keeps the brain youthful and resilient. You don't have to do everything at once. Place your list somewhere. You'll see it every day on the refrigerator. Perhaps, let it be a gentle reminder. Oh, that's right. I was going to try that new recipe with salmon, or I wanted to take a longer walk through the park today. At first, just remembering is enough. Slowly, you will begin to tune your life, aligning your daily habits with the health of your brain. Let these 5 lessons to walk more, to sit less, to sleep well, to eat a varied diet, and to engage your senses be your guide. You don't need to be overwhelmed. Start today with just one thing. Walk for 10 extra minutes. Stand up every half hour. Aim for 7 hours of sleep. Add a handful of walnuts to your breakfast. Schedule that hearing test. Your brain is a remarkably resilient organ. It will respond. You can grow new brain cells and form new connections at any age. It is never too late to start. Together, let's begin this journey of dementia prevention today. Your mind is your most precious asset. It holds your memories, your personality, your very essence. Let's give it the care and respect it deserves, so that it may remain a vibrant, clear, and joyful place for all the days of your life.